First of all, I know that this is the kind of class where there's a lot of participation involved, a lot of discussion, um, and a lot of awareness is needed. So, to deal with social and emotional skills, you have to be aware of how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, so that you could do anything about it. So mindfulness is really important when you want to work on your skills for building your social emotional health. And I hope that if we continue in class together, that we feel safe sharing our thoughts and feelings with one another, because a safe place is important. A safe space is important to share these things. And don't worry, I'm not going to force you to share anything you're not comfortable sharing. Um, it's important to feel comfortable, and as long as you are reflecting and you discuss to the best of your ability, that's where journaling can help you as well. But I hope that you do feel comfortable sharing at some point, because the more you give, the more you get. The more you participate, the more you learn from the course. Okay, so I hope you keep that in mind. So this is going to be a little bit different than learning math, right? So for today's lesson on anger management, I want to ask you, have you ever gotten really angry? Like so angry, you have a hard time thinking straight? I know I have. Anybody else here? You could write it in the chat.
Yes.
Who said
Yes.
yes? Yes? I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I still remember to this day how it felt like my blood was boiling and I lost control. So the way it felt in my body when something like that happens, I feel this like losing control, like this, I don't know, like I'm seeing red or something. And it's hard for me to like calm down and think in a responsible way and in a problem solving calm way. So and I feel really tight in my body, like all my muscles are tense, and I feel hot and like my heart is racing. So I just want to know, how does it feel in your body when you get really upset or really angry? You could write it in the chat if you like, some things that you notice in your body when you feel really angry. Or you can raise your hand, or you could, since we're not all talking over one another, you could go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, Bessie, go ahead, Bessie.
When I'm sometimes mad, I just feel like my anger is boiling up inside me. I just want to yell.
Okay, so do you feel hot when you're boiling up inside?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And I also got the impression that maybe you were feeling like tight or tense too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And
what about Yes, Ryan?
And like it's kind of like the same feeling of when you're dreaming, like after it's done, like you're not quite sure what happened.
Oh, that feeling? Yes, I know what you're talking about. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and I'm going to share screen again because I want to refer you to part of the workbook. So I want to look at the triggers, okay? So a trigger is, well, actually, the word trigger is not defined on this workbook. So before I actually share, I can see your faces better when I stop sharing screen. That's why I do that. Who can tell me in your best words, doesn't have to be an official dictionary definition, what does the word trigger mean? You could put it in the chat or you could raise your hand. And I see Bessie's hand raised. I just want to see if there's anybody else. And maybe somebody's writing it in the chat. Okay, go ahead, Bessie. What do you think trigger means?
It's something that could like lead to an action, like say if you have like a little sibling and they broke your phone, that could trigger you into yelling at them.
Yes, absolutely. I like how you said it leads you to do an action or it leads you to do something, right? That's how I look at it too. It causes you to get angry. So think of it as something that makes you get angry. So, very good, Richard. Yeah, I like how you wrote it in the chat as well. So, these are some examples of possible triggers. And I want you to know, before we actually go through this list over here, I want to share something with you. A long time ago when I was taking a personal development course, I remember someone saying that anger is an impure emotion. It's not a pure emotion, which means that it's usually covering up something deeper. So, for example, fear is one example of something it could be covering up. And I remember when my kids were little, and if a ball went onto the street, and they went onto the street to get the ball without looking both ways, without asking me for permission, I would freak out and yell at them. Now, in anger, but really that anger was covering up fear. I was afraid they were going to get hurt, and that's why I was yelling at them in anger. So I invite you to take that on. I want you to consider the next time you feel angry, ask yourself, is there something deeper that it's hiding? Okay. And that's why awareness and mindfulness is so important, so that you can notice these things and notice these triggers so that you've got more power and control over them. Okay, so some possible triggers are being called a name or being picked on, being falsely accused of something, like getting blamed for something you didn't do. Oh, my brother used to do that to me all the time when I was growing up. Being ignored or left out or feeling
It's
invisible.
worst if you're the older sibling.
Oh, I can't wait to hear a story, because the next part after I share this is I want to hear some examples. So hang on to that, okay? Hold that thought. If someone gets too close to you, now I know right now during COVID, there's a lot of physical distancing, but maybe inside your house, there's no physical distancing, or pre-COVID, you can think of examples, or there's an underlying emotion, as I said before, jealousy or fear or not feeling in control, which could be about fear, like fearing that you're not in control. So I want to know if any of you can think of an example of a situation, either in your own personal life, or maybe you saw something at school once, or you could just think of a general example. It doesn't have to be about you. Can anyone think of an example of one of these triggers? And I'm going to stop sharing just so I can see your beautiful faces. Oh, Eldon has a good one, and Fiona and Bessie have some examples. I can't wait. So Eldon, and then Fiona, and then Bessie. Now, Eldon, are you comfortable unmuting yourself?
Yes.
Go for it. Tell us a better, more detailed example about a bad teammate in games.
So like I don't know how to really explain it. Maybe it's like you're fighting someone. It's like a team strategy game, and your teammate's not listening, and they're like griefing. Yeah, AFK teammates. So like they just like don't move at all, and they're just like doing something else or watching something else.
That's a great example. My son, who loves playing video games, and even some of my students, they use the word rage. They are raging. Do you use that word too? In video games?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
They say, "Oh, I rage when my teammates don't listen to me," or
Rage quit.
very rage. What's rage quit? Oh, when you just leave the game because you're just fed up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're really
Yeah.
mad and you're raging really hard that you want to quit the game. So like all
I get
F4.
it. I get it. Wow. Oh, you get reported if when you rage quit. Alt F4. Thank you for teaching me some slang, people. I feel not so old now. And if you can think of an example that doesn't involve video games, because I know there's a lot of rage there, but I want to hear something different now.
Well, my brother, well, he used to call me Fona, and I'm okay with that when I was like 4.
Yeah.
But now I'm like super mad because like I don't like when my brother calls me Fona.
I don't blame you. And is he younger or older than you?
He's younger.
And he knows how to say Fiona now, doesn't he?
Well, he calls me Fiona, but that's better than Fona.
Okay. Yeah, siblings can be a big source of anger, right? I know mine were growing up, and with my own kids, boy, do they rage on each other sometimes. What about you, Bessie?
I never actually had a sibling, but one of my friends told me these things like basically like maybe like your younger sibling made a mess and your mom blamed you for it.
Oh, yes. Yep. My brother would do that to me all the time. You know what else he would do? He was really evil. We would be watching TV on different areas of the couch, like far away from one another, not touching. And he would start screaming in pain, fake screaming in pain. And my mom was downstairs and we were upstairs. And I'm just looking at him as if he's crazy. And he would just say, Mom, Mom, Tina's hurting me. And she would yell at me. And I'm just sitting there watching TV, not doing
Oh yeah,
anything.
same. That happened too.
Oh, siblings, man. Siblings can be the worst, right? They could be the best and they could be the worst. And Jeffrey, I think you were the last one, and then we're gonna move on. So Jeffrey, did you want to share something?
I was just gonna explain like what Alt F4 does, because
Oh yeah, okay,
so
quickly.
it just closes you out like an application. So let's say you have like Chrome open. If you
Yes.
hit Alt F4, it's gonna close Chrome for you, just like a
Okay.
hotkey.
You know what? I'm not. I don't want to say that I'm not techie, but I'm not super techie, so I love learning that. So thank you very much for teaching me that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to sharing screen, because I
Wait.
want. Yes.
I have something to say. It's like, I have an older brother.
Uh-huh.
We don't talk that much because he's really, like, he's 28, so we can't really like do things together
Oh,
because
he's a
he's
lot
really
older.
old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my brothers were much older than me too, but 16 years older and 11 years older. And it didn't stop my much older brother from acting like a child. So maybe you're lucky that your 28-year-old brother is mature. Anyways, we're going to go back to, actually, before I go back to sharing my screen, I just want to ask something. Is it okay to get angry? So I want to know what you think. Is it okay to get angry? You could put it in the chat or you could raise your hand. So Ryan says yes. Fiona says yes. Thank you for participating. Anybody else? So does Eldon. Eldon says yes. Well, I guess everybody could see, right? Okay. I'll give you, and you know what? I really appreciate that some of you are really thinking about this. Very good, Bessie. That's true, Jeffrey. Excellent ideas. Very good. I'm glad nobody said no. Very good. Because you're right. Anger is a normal human emotion. It's okay to get angry because what if there's an injustice being committed against you or a friend? That's not right. So anger can be a signal that, teaches us something. It could create an opportunity to do something about something. But you're right. It's what you do with that anger that could be either healthy or unhealthy. So it's okay to get angry, but then once you get angry, that's where mindfulness and awareness, like being aware that you're getting angry, is really important because then you can respond instead of react. And you can respond in a healthy way instead of an unhealthy way. So I wanted to ask, what are some unhealthy ways to deal with anger? What are some unhealthy, and there's a lot of different ideas here, so I'd like to hear from all of you. What are some unhealthy ways of dealing with anger? Like Fiona has some good ideas there. Oh, murder is the ultimate, right? Oh boy, violence. So yeah, those are all really good examples of hurting other people. And who else could you hurt besides other people or besides hurting property?
Yourself.
Exactly. Very good. So unhealthy ways of dealing with anger could involve either hurting yourself emotionally or physically, like if you punch something and then you hurt your hand, that's physical. But it could you could hurt yourself emotionally if you have negative self-talk about it. Instead of swearing at somebody else, you give yourself the negative self-talk, so it can hurt you emotionally. Or you could hurt other people or property. Yeah, arson is a really good example of destruction of property, right? And one more thing I want to say about that is suppression. Do you know what suppression means? Let me write that in the chat for people. Okay, I'll spell it. Anybody know what suppression means? Because that's another unhealthy way of dealing with anger. Very good, Eric. Yeah. Anybody else? But yeah, if you suppress something and you keep it inside in an unhealthy way, like you don't deal with it, you don't acknowledge it, you don't share those feelings, then that is suppression, and that can make you sick. Okay, believe it or not, that can stress you out and that can make you sick. So I really acknowledge your wonderful ideas for all the unhealthy ways of dealing with anger. Now, I want to ask you, what are some of the healthier ways of dealing with anger? And
Stressful.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. And there's a ton of ideas for this. Hey, Bessie, I love what you just said in the chat. That is so clever. So Jeffrey raised his hand. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
You could like just like, so for one, you could just calm yourself down by like playing video games, because that's like the best thing to do in life.
In your opinion, right? Yes, very good.
Or you could just like, you could yell at someone, but like not much. Just like tell them, "Oh, I dislike you for this. I'm gonna walk away now," or just walk away.
You came up with a lot of really good ideas in there. So I like that you said shouting, but maybe not at someone. It depends, right? Like there was actually, when I grew up in the 80s, there was a song by a band called Tears for Fears called Shout, Shout, Let It All Out. And it was about scream therapy. You know, I'm sure you've heard of art therapy or music therapy. Imagine going into a soundproof room and just yelling so that you can't disturb anybody and you just let out all that stress. So, and you also mentioned playing video games and did you also say going for a walk? Did I miss that? Jeffrey, there was a third thing that you mentioned and now I can't remember. Video games,
or
shouting.
You could just walk away.
Walking away, that's it. Well, Eric, that's funny. Yes, eating can be pleasurable. However, it should never be used as a reward or as a way to calm yourself down because it could lead to an eating disorder. And there's different kinds of eating disorders, right? So eating should be, you know, when you're hungry, you eat when you're hungry. But that's a really, really good idea, Fiona. Counting, singing. Okay, very good. Oh, that's good. Using your imagination or empathy to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, like look at it from their point of view. Excellent ideas. So I'm going to share screen. Oh, and Jeffrey raised his hand again. Did you want to say something else?
Yes. So
yeah.
About eating. So in school, so I learned about like stress and mental health stuff.
Yes.
And we learned that eating while angry might not be the best idea, because you may eat too much for your own good if you're angry.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's really important to eat mindfully, right? So to take your time, chew your food, not be stressed out when you're eating, so you get to enjoy it and you nourish your body, and so that you can pay attention for when you're full and for how you're feeling. I'm going to share my screen now, and I want to show you other parts of this. So we went over some triggers, and a couple people shared how their body feels when you're getting angry. What are some thoughts that you might have of when you're getting angry?
Revenge?
Yep, for sure. That could definitely be a thought you might have, getting back at someone. or yeah, vibing them. Okay, good.
I have a question. May I go to the
Yes.
washroom?
Oh, thank you for letting me know. Absolutely, you can. Yeah.
Huh.
And if anybody else has to do that at any point, you could just let me know in the chat. Just me, just say, be right back, and no problem. Turn off your webcam and off you go, and you can turn it back on later. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to show you here, actually, we were talking about the things you can do to calm down. Okay. So counting to 10, taking a walk, doing breathing exercises, using a calming app. Somebody mentioned squeezing a stress ball. Um, what else is there? Listening to music or playing video games, yoga, exercise, listening to music, writing in a journal, and dancing is another way of, using activity to release all that stress. So really good ideas there, people. And so we talked about unhealthy ways to handle anger, and I wanted to also talk about healthy ways to handle anger. But before we do that, which actually we were talking about taking, calming yourself down, but I also wanted to let you know that, remember, even though we said it's okay to get angry, it's what you do with that anger after that's really important. How you handle it. You can handle it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way. And I want you to know that even keeping anger inside, suppressing it, is an unhealthy way to deal with anger. And too much anger can cause physical harm. Isn't that interesting that an emotion can cause your physical body, can make you sick? It can weaken your immune system, and other people believe that it can cause other illnesses as well. I think my mom died many, many years ago, and she died of stomach cancer, but she was the type of woman who would always keep things inside. So who knows? Did that cause cancer? I don't want to scare you or worry you, but it's very important to learn how to deal with your anger in a healthy way, to let it out in a responsible way where you respond and you think about the best approach rather than reacting and dealing with it in an unhealthy way. Thank you, Eldon. Thank you very much for that. That's very sweet. I just saw that in the chat. Okay. Now, some of these unhealthy ways you already mentioned. Now, shouting at a person at that moment is reactive. But if you use it as scream therapy, it could be okay in a quiet room by yourself. Criticizing others, pretending there's nothing wrong, storming out of the room. And you came up with some great ideas for, not great ideas, uh, examples, great examples for dealing with it in an unhealthy way. Oh, thank you, Bessie. That's sweet. Yes, I'm sure she is. Now, healthy ways to handle anger. You came up with some great ideas for how to calm down, because you can't think straight when you're still steaming angry, like, you're still, when you don't have control over yourself, you can't think straight. Let's see. Wow, let me read this out loud to everybody, Ryan. Studies show that when you're angry at somebody and you let out rage in an aggressive way, like breaking things, etc., you prove to make them even more angry to that person than just letting them sit in a room. Like, it can make it worse. It can make the situation worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called, very good. Very good. That's called escalation. Okay, when things get bigger and bigger and they build up and build up and they get worse, that's an example of something called escalation. Okay, and when you calm things down, we can call that de-escalating something, especially if there's a conflict with another person. Very good, Ryan. That's very impressive. Now, another way a positive way to handle anger, besides calming yourself down, using one of the many ideas we already discussed, is to problem solve, coming up with as many ideas as possible. And when you problem solve, it takes some intellectual effort, but it's always possible to think of a win-win-win situation, or at least win-win, a solution that nobody loses, right? And using positive self-talk. Now, I want to discuss with you, I want to see how open you are with sharing a time, and it only share what you're comfortable sharing, and you don't even have to share it all if you don't want. And I forgot to tell everybody who joined a little bit later, if you can grab some paper and a pen, I think it will be very beneficial for you. Or if you don't happen to have any paper to pen, I guess you could always open up a new tab and go into a Google Doc or something, or do it on a screen. But there's something about physically writing things on paper that is very beneficial. There's different neural connections that are formed when you actually write things down. Okay, so I invite you to write this on a piece of paper. I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? So these questions here, I'm going to be asking you. But the reason why I'm going to ask you these is because if you see any patterns, you can start to identify your triggers. And it's important to know about your triggers, because if you know your triggers, you can be ready for them before your anger builds and builds and builds to the point where you lose control. You can start to notice sooner, hey, I think I'm getting angry. I think I need to take a break. You can have more control and you could do something about it sooner. You can understand them, and maybe you can change your habits, okay? If you notice what your triggers are, if you notice any patterns. So here's examples of patterns. Maybe the times that you get angry the most is when your little brother is usually with you. Now, I guess you can't give away your little brother, but maybe you know to take some breaks from him if you know that it's usually him that makes you angry. Or if it only happens at home, or if it only happens at school, or if you're hungry, if you notice that you get a lot more angry when you're tired or hungry or thirsty, even when you're thirsty, then you can do something about it. And that's when it's good to eat. It's good to eat if you're hungry so that you don't get triggered to be angry, excuse me. So let me share a different screen. Let's see, which one did I want to share? I think it's this one, okay? So this is something that if we had a Google Classroom, I could post this in our Google Classroom. But for now, if you have a paper and a pen or a different screen open, or even if you just want to think about it, I want you to think about something that caused you to become really angry in the past. Think about what happened, okay? You don't have to share right now. And I want you to think about, well, what caused it? And what happened right before? So this is trying to get deeper into the situation, trying to analyze it, trying to see if there's a pattern. At this point, does anybody want to work with me? Does anybody want to share? Does anybody feel comfortable sharing a time when they got super angry? Why can I think of 3 examples right away? Anybody else? Anybody want to share an example?
I can.
Go ahead, Bessie. Thank you.
Okay, this was a really long time ago, but I remember back then I really liked playing video games. Basically, my mom, I kind of said she would turn off the Wi-Fi if I don't stop playing, and I thought it was just really unfair that she gets to have control over most of the power and I don't. So I just started screaming and bottling up my emotions.
Wow, Bessie, I love how you already analyzed that it was over a lack of control. That's amazing. You already figured it out. That's great. And so, did you end up resolving that conflict with your mom?
Yeah, I apologize, and yeah, I apologize. I remember I apologized for not controlling my anger. My mom apologized because she was too hasty in her actions.
Oh, wow. That's a very mature response on both of your parts. And did you come up with excuse me, did you come up with a solution going forward in the future that is a win-win for both of you? Like,
Oh
did you come up with a deal?
yeah, it was a deal that basically I learned that I shouldn't spend my time on my video games because my mom actually cared about me and she was looking
Oh,
out for me. So I realized it. So basically we basically established a rule. I have to finish my homework and everything I have to do, my responsibilities before I can play video games. That way everyone's happy.
wow. That's incredible. I love how you worked out a win-win situation for you both. And you also had empathy and you saw it from your mother's point of view as well, that she just cared about you. Very mature. Excellent work. Thank you for sharing that. So back to these questions. Even if you're not willing to share right now, think of a time when you got really angry and think about it. Like, what was it? What happened before? What happened during? What happened after? Were you hungry? Did you have a bad day the day before? Were you tired? Maybe you didn't sleep well. Did the morning start like that? Um, who else was there? What were the circumstances? See if you can pick out some triggers. If you can see a pattern, then that might help you identify some triggers. And am I missing anything in the chat? No, that's good. Okay. I've got so many things on my screen. Sometimes it's hard to keep track. So hopefully you can see some.
Bathroom.
Yes, Samuel, go ahead. Thank you for letting me know. So hopefully you can see some patterns and some triggers so that you could do something about it. And it's really good to be aware of how your body feels when you're getting angry, because even if it's not the same situation, like your little brother being a trigger, if you can start to pay attention to the same feelings, like, uh-oh, that thing that I feel in my stomach is starting to happen, or uh-oh, I can feel my body start to get tense, or uh-oh, I can feel my heart start to race. If you can notice it and be aware of it, then you can do something about it before it gets out of control, okay? Now, you came up with some great ideas for how you can calm down. And there are lots of ways you can calm down, but what are some things you can say to yourself, some positive self-talk that you can say to yourself to help you calm down? So for me, I'm just going to share one to give you an idea. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces again. One of the things that I like to say to myself is, it'll get better. You don't have to know the answer right this second. Just take a break and it will get better. Or sometimes people say, this too shall pass. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. Anybody else have an example of what you could say to yourself to help you calm down? Something positive you can tell yourself. You can always think about that, right? Now, I did want to share a video with you. Let's see if I can get my screen ready for sharing again. And, oh, that's not it. It's right here. I just wanted to get my screen ready for sharing. And there's a video that I want to show you about anger management for kids. Now, I know maybe you might think that this is for little kids, but I'm an adult. I'm way older than you, maybe even older than your parents. And I loved this video. Let me tell you, this video is really clear. I think it's creative. It does a really good job. And it's good for adults too, okay? So I hope you get a lot out of it. Whether you have paper or not, I want you to keep in mind, what are some of the best parts that you like, if you like the video? What are some of the best parts from the video? What are the big ideas, the big takeaways that you think would help you in the future, okay? So let's watch. No, I forgot to share my screen with optimal sound. I've got to click that first. Okay, now I'm sharing optimally.
Hi friends, welcome to another social emotional learning video from Mile Marks. Today we will be learning all about anger. In this video, you will learn these 3 things:
I apologize for stopping the video, people. I just forgot to ask you about the sound. Is it, can you hear it? Because I can raise the volume.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I should raise the volume?
Oh, we can hear it.
You can hear it? Okay, I raised it a little bit just in case, okay? Thank you for that.
One, what is anger? Two, how does anger affect you? And three, what are helpful ways of coping with anger? Ready? Let's get started. So what exactly is anger? Have you ever had someone make fun of you or do something that you really didn't like? And when it happened, your skin started feeling hot, your palms were sweating, you were huffing and puffing or pacing all over the room. You might have even felt like you were going to lose control, and all you could think about was making that other person pay for what they did to you. Well, friends, that feeling is called anger. Anger is a strong feeling that you get when something bad happens to you, or when someone does something wrong that you really don't like. It's normal to feel angry. Everyone gets angry sometimes. The things or situations that make us angry are known as anger triggers. Some common anger triggers for kids are someone touching your things without asking, someone making fun of you or calling you a name that you don't like, not getting your way, or getting in trouble for something you didn't do. Anger triggers are different for everyone. It's important to figure out the things that make you feel angry so that you can find helpful ways of coping when they happen. So how exactly does anger affect you? When you get angry, you can feel it in your body. Your heart beats faster, your breathing gets shorter, your muscles feel tight, you feel hot and start to sweat, or you might get butterflies in your stomach. You could also have a lot of negative thoughts going through your head when you are angry. You might think to yourself, "This is so unfair. I'm not going to let them get away with it." Or, "I should hit that person for what they did to me." Anger can also lead to poor behavior choices as well. It can make you react by name-calling, using bad words, talking back, destroying property, or in some cases, trying to hurt yourself or the other person. Not being able to control your thoughts and behaviors when you get angry can get you in trouble and can hurt your relationships. Feeling angry isn't a bad thing. All feelings are okay. Anger becomes a problem when you cope with it in a way that hurts you or others. So here are 4 things you can do to start coping with your anger in a positive way. Number 1, respond instead of react. For some people, when an anger trigger occurs, they do something about it right away. This is called reacting. When you react, you usually don't think about the consequences and can end up doing or saying something hurtful. Responding means that you are taking time to figure out the best way to handle the situation, one that won't get you in trouble or hurt yourself or others. So the next time you feel yourself getting upset, stop and think it through instead of reacting to it right away. Number 2, calm your body down. Remember all those things that can happen to your body when you feel angry? It's important to find ways to get your body back to being calm. Deep breathing is something that is helpful for most people. You could also count to 10, go for a walk, listen to music, draw, or play a game. All of these things are helpful in taking your focus away from your anger and giving you time to calm down. What things do you do to calm your body? Number 3, use positive self-talk. Positive self-talk is when you say helpful things to yourself to get your feelings of anger to go away. These statements can help you make a better decision. Some things you can say to yourself are, "Just let it go. It's not a big deal. As long as I'm calm, I'm in control." Or, "Is this person really worth getting in trouble for?" When you have these positive thoughts, you're more likely to make a smart decision about how to cope with your anger. Number 4, share your feelings. When you're feeling angry, it can be useful to share your feelings with the other person. When you do, they might apologize, stop their behavior, or may even do things to help you calm down. Usually, when you feel angry, you're experiencing other feelings as well. For example, if someone makes fun of you because you tripped and fell in the hallway, you might be angry, but you may also be feeling embarrassed or shy. It's helpful to share these other feelings with the person in a calm and respectful way. This gives you the best chance of having that person actually listen and care about how you feel. There are 3 rules to remember next time you are feeling angry. Number 1, don't hurt yourself. Number 2, don't hurt others. And number 3, don't destroy property. Instead, use one of the helpful coping skills you learned today. Well, that's all we have for you today, friends. I hope you learned a lot and you found this information helpful. If you did, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. Look in the description below to find more links and resources about anger. Be sure to also check out our other videos and visit our website at milemarks.com for more.
I hope you liked it. I didn't notice there were some things happening in the chat. Let's see here. Narrator speaks in advertisement. Okay, you can do it. Yes. That's funny possible conversation. Thank you, Bessie. Thank you, Fiona, and everybody else who participated. Yes, so, yes, Bessie, did you want to say something?
The video kind of reminds me of like a course I did in 3rd grade in my school. I'm not sure if it's called 7 Steps or something. It was about having empathy, sympathy for others, but not really like empathy where it's like you almost pity them. And it's like how to like be passive aggressive, like not passive aggressive, like how to be passive in situations.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm glad. So that's what it reminded you of. That's really good. So thank you for sharing that. And Fiona had her hand up too. I want to give everybody an opportunity to share about what they got out of the video or anything that they want to share about the video at all.
I think what Bessie was trying to say is steps. Did she say 7 steps?
It's a program, whether it's 7 steps or second steps. So it's a program for is it about conflict resolution? How to deal with conflicts properly?
Yeah.
Yeah, because anger can probably lead to a lot of conflicts, right? There's a lot of related topics that we can address. Okay, does anybody else want to share what they thought of that video?
It was kind of a good video.
I'm glad you liked it, Ryan. I really liked it too. I learned a lot from that video. There was like not a super long video, but I found it engaging and they packed a lot of good information in 6 minutes. That's the kind of video that I wouldn't mind watching over and over again. Who remembers any one of the 4 ways to cope with anger in a positive way? There were 4. Let's see which one you remember. Anybody want you? Oh, go ahead, Fiona. I see your hand.
Listen to music, take a walk, and count to 10.
Very good. That was how to calm your body down. And they had so many ideas like listening to music or counting to 10 or going for a walk. So very good. That was about calming your body down. And there's lots of ways that you can calm your body down. One of my favorite ways is to go for a walk. And breathing, even if you're really, really angry, if you start to breathe low, like deep and slow, you can trick your body into thinking it's not angry and it's calm. So the way you breathe will make your mind follow. So if you breathe like a relaxed person, your mind will start to be like the mind of a relaxed person. So your mind will follow your body. Anybody else want to share any one of the 4 ways?
Talk.
Yes, positive self-talk. Very good. And did you think of any good examples? I heard some really good examples of positive
Like,
self-talk.
not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah. And is it worth it? Or is that person worth it? Is the situation worth it? Sometimes people just want to be right, but at what cost? So sometimes you have to ask yourself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? Because it's not always worth it. Go ahead, Bessie. Thank you for
That
raising your
also
hand.
reminds me, my school posted lots of posters. Like I've been to many schools, and all around they posted posters with like, where you always, when you choose to be like right or kind, always choose the kind.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I wonder if it reminds me of another poster that I saw, and it's called. There's an acronym, and it's think, and it says something like, before you speak, ask yourself. The T is for, is it true? H is for, is it helpful or hurtful? One of those. Um, and then I think the N and the K is it nice? Is it kind? So that's your poster reminds me of that poster. I forget what the I stands for. So really good. We have 2 of the 4 ways for positive ways to cope with anger. So somebody mentioned about calming your body down using any one of those really good strategies like deep breathing or going for a walk or playing a video game, etc. Using positive self-talk was another one. Very good. There's 2 more. Can you think of them? Can you think of the other 2 ways of coping in a positive way with your anger? One of them, actually the first one was respond instead of react. Remember the difference? Reacting is when you don't think about the consequences, you just act right away. But responding means you take the time to think about what's the best solution where everybody wins and there's nobody loses, right? So you take the time to think of the best approach. Very good. And there's one more, the 4th way of how to handle your anger in a positive way. And this one, oh, I use this one all the time. I'll give you a hint. If you're upset about something, what do you do? What do you do if there's if there's something bothering you?
You walk away.
You can, definitely you can walk away. But after that, do you do anything?
You do what you normally do.
Yeah, you definitely could. Maybe this isn't such a great hint after all. Anybody else? What do you do when you're trying to solve a problem? I want to give you one more chance. Go ahead, Fiona.
I talk to my stuffy.
I love that you said you talk to your stuffy. And you know what? I actually talk to my friends. Does anybody else ever talk to either a parent or a sibling or a friend? Anybody? I call my friends. Yeah, that's great. Friends are, for me, my friends are like free psychologists, free therapy. And friends shouldn't always give you advice because sometimes their advice may not be the best thing, but friends should ask you good questions so that you can figure out the best solution for you. So sharing your feelings with a trusted adult or with a good friend who accepts you for exactly who you are, and a friend who really wants the best for you. Sharing your feelings is a really good way of dealing with your anger and learning from it too. Okay, so wow, I can't believe it's already 9:30, people. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. I really enjoyed meeting you all, and your participation was phenomenal, and you're so mature and intelligent. And I loved that you shared all those wonderful ideas with me and some technology things too, and some really cool slang about raging. It was really nice to meet all of you.